Hello everyone. Thank you for being here for Shop Talk. If you're watching the replay, you're welcome. And my name is Whitney and I'm with Thrifty_Whitney on Instagram. And I'm waiting for my co-host Nicole to join me. She's at Vintage Haven Shop on Instagram. And we host a regular monthly Shop Talk where we talk about tips and strategies for vintage sellers. And I'm going to go ahead for being patient with us as we moved our time over a little bit. We realized that with the weird FEMA thing alert that everyone would have really loud noises on their phones. All right, hey.
Hi.
Oh, I'm good. I'm glad that we were able to scramble around and kind of move the time. After all that this morning, it was like 3. Yeah,
it wasn't really as loud as I thought it was going to be. I was thinking it was going to be like a, I don't know, pretty big alert. But mine read the entire message out loud to me, so that was fun. That wouldn't have been good on here.
No, it's a good call to just move it 30 minutes. So hopefully that didn't mess up anyone's ability to be here. So just so you know, in case you can't see the whole thing live, we will have a replay available on Instagram. And I also found out a way about how to post these onto YouTube. So I download them and yeah, I can put them on there. It's a little bit easier to rewatch them on YouTube, just with like pausing and fast forwarding. Because I know on Instagram, if you go into a live replay and then you have to get out of it and you go back, it doesn't save your spot. You have to kind of find it again. So I think YouTube will make it a lot easier for people to enjoy watching the replays. So all right, are we ready to dive in? We really encourage you guys to be active in the comments. That was one of our favorite part of last time, was just seeing everybody chat with each other. And we try to keep an eye on questions that come through in the comments and answer those as we can. And sometimes we just have to save them for future episodes. But yeah, today's topic is finding and managing inventory. So we were kind of thinking, let's start from the beginning of the whole journey of marketing, right? Finding your items, selling them, shipping them. And so we're starting down with how you figure out first what even kind of inventory that you want to buy for your shop. So Nicole, how did you kind of hone in on the kind of inventory that you wanted to find to sell?
So I'm going to just put it out there that it did take a while. Like the first year, about a year, I was just kind of buying like anything that I thought would sell, like items that I've seen other people sell or items that I've seen like in inspiration photos in like magazines and like different types of things like that. Like everybody loves ironstone, right? I guess that's like now. I mean, not everybody, but like that's like a pretty like common item that people enjoy. So I would pick that up. I mean, I still pick that up, but like in the beginning, I would just say like I was just grabbing anything that I thought would resell well. And I realized that it is better to kind of like niche down a little bit and just like provide a curated collection for people. I'm not saying it all has to be like you don't only have to sell brass or only sell art, but I think like having like staple items that people can expect to see in your sales and might actually like reach out to you to purchase, that's always really good. Like I've had a few people just message me, hey, I really liked the tomato spoons that you showed. Do you have any extras? Like it's nice to be able to curate these types of items and have them like always in stock type of a thing for your customers and for potential like new buyers. I think with me, I was drawn towards the items that I would personally like to keep in my own home. So I feel like it's more enjoyable than to find those items and be able to provide them for you guys. And it also gave me the opportunity that like in the meantime, if items weren't selling, I wouldn't mind like hanging on to them just for a little bit until they sell. Like obviously you keep them in good condition and you rewash them or whatever, like before you package them out to like get shipped off. But that's how I figured it out. I was just like the items that I would like to keep in my home are the ones that I tend to sell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, it really tuned into looking for a specific historical period. I did, mid-century was really hot when I started it, and well, a few years ago. It still is hot, but I like it kind of experimented with that a little bit and then realized like I didn't really like it that much. And I was really drawn towards things like true antiques, like pre-1930. And I still sell tons of just kind of routine vintage 1970s, vintage brass type things as well, because I think they do accentuate the antiques that you have at your home, and it's nice to have a range of price points for people. But more and more, I am drawn to more rustic, primitive farmhouse antiques, whether those are American or European, things that have the heft of history behind them. And also with even with color palettes, because I feel like you have a very tuned color palette, and I love kind of more rich, vibrant colors. And quilts, for my first few years, I guess I still am kind of known for quilts. I'm kind of there's a lot of quilt sellers, people who only sell quilts, but I do have a lot of quilts that go along with all of my antiques, because for me, it's kind of this whole picture of this is how the Victorian home used to look, or the Edwardian or whatever. So I do think that when you niche down, it also keeps your shop from looking like a flea market or a garage sale. There's even antique stores that they have in their contract. They say, do not bring flea market items. And what they mean by that is just kind of like, well, this is how I think how that happens is you have dealers who will go into auctions and they'll buy lots of it'll be a lot of 50 items, and they put all of that in their store. Well, like whether it's new stuff, old stuff still in package, random toys, whatever, they just put it all in there. Whereas we would probably you buy the lot in order to get the one or two treasures that are in it, and then you only put those in your shop. You're picking out the best example. So, and yes, specialties, like knowing who to go to when your customer is looking for something specific, means that you're top of mind when they think of that item, which I think is really important. Yeah. So obviously the hunt is honestly the most fun part it's one of the most fun parts of the business, and it's also the most competitive. And there's a lot of secrecy with some dealers about their sources of where they get their stock. I feel like because I source so hyper local that I don't really have as much hesitation sharing some of the ways that I hunt down. But we wanted to talk about all the different sources that we use to find antiques and find stock for our shop. And this, even if you're not an antique seller, I think you'll enjoy this, because if you do love the hunt and you do love a bargain, you can probably find some of these places yourself. So the first one that we had done on the list was antique stores, right? And Nicole, I think you have said before that this is where you source a lot of your stock from. So how do you go about doing that?
I think antique stores are they're more practical if your time is limited. So thrift stores, obviously, your profit margin is going to be exponentially larger than buying an item at an antique store. I still think you should keep a budget in mind when you are shopping, whether you're going to a thrift store or antique store, flea market, however you're sourcing your items. But for me, if I only have, if you work or if you have kids or if you have other responsibilities and you're not able to really go out and spend hours or days during the week to source items at a deal, then I think in order to save time, if I go to an antique mall, I might not have a huge haul, but maybe I spend 2 hours there and at least I have something to bring home to list Whereas like thrift stores, especially within the past like 2 years, have been really difficult. And I don't think it's just in my area because I've heard other people talk about it too. Um, like Whitney said, there's a lot of competition. So if you only have like say 5 thrift stores in like a 20-mile radius and there are a lot of other antique resellers like in your area, then you have to be competitive and like get to the item first. And you also have to go more regularly to get something. Sometimes like thrift stores have more of the junkier items, but like you do find those unicorn pieces and hopefully at like a good deal. But I think antique stores are definitely like your best bet if you want to go into a store and leave with a purchase. Um, so we were talking about like how to find antique stores. Google is a really good source, but Google does not list every single mom and pop antique store. So like it's good for like your larger like antique malls or like vintage markets or like things like that. Um, so like if I have a Google phone, so I think Google Maps is easier for me to access. I'm not sure how it is with everybody, but like I flag my favorite areas to like if I've gone to a store and I really like it, I'll like star it. Some thrift and antique stores aren't so great, so I'll mark that. Like if I forget if I like that one or not, I'll just say nope, not going back there. Or you could do like the want to go. So like I have a whole bunch flagged for like when we went to Ohio, I flagged a lot along the way. We didn't go to every single one, but at least now I have like a list that I can like refer back to if we're ever in that area again. Or there are like I don't have one with me. I was gonna grab it. They have like those like 6 panel like brochures at like rest stops for different states. Sometimes the antique malls have them, and it will say like antiques New Jersey or antiques Northern Pennsylvania or whatever. Then you can like these antique stores pay to have their shop listed in these brochures, but those are a really great source to just like keep in your car. So if you are passing by a new area or you have a little bit of time, you can refer back to those. But yeah, I would say antique stores
Yeah.
don't dismiss them because the prices are higher because you can get a deal. You can find an item that a dealer maybe doesn't realize it's worth or it's worth online or if it's like really popular right now. So I
Yeah.
would definitely check those out.
Yeah, and it's very location dependent, like what you're saying about expense and profit and stuff. Like you just have to go and get to know the booths in the stores and what they have. But I mean, I have walked out of one of, probably shouldn't even say this. I have walked out of one of the top most expensive antique stores in the metro area, like high end. They go to Round Top. They're like extremely high end sourcing natural with a $25 breadboard because I connected with the
Mm-hmm.
dealer there and he wanted to sell it. And he sell, it's also about personal connections, asking for discounts nicely. Most places will give you, they have like not the real high end one, but like a lot of them will do 10% off of any like stuff that's over $50, over $100. And if you have a retail sales tax number, get that on file with the antique store. And then every time you check out, make sure that they're not charging you sales tax if you're going to resell the item. But yeah, I have a Google map list, and there are some antique stores I have found on Facebook that Facebook has suggested to me, and they're not even listed on Google Maps. So I just save the address in the map list and then put the name of the shop in there, their phone number or whatever, because there's a lot out there, and you just have to like keep looking. And Facebook is a really great place to find some of those. So the next thing, we auctions. So I've done a couple of live auctions, and you've done online. I mean, I've also done online
Online only.
auctions.
I haven't done any in person.
Yeah. So live auctions are completely addicting. They're also like for some, I love high drama, high stakes, lots of people. Like I'm in my element. The more pressure there is, like I thrive in that. So I've been to 2 auctions, and auctions are very energy and time intensive. So I've only gone to those 2 live auctions because A, I had the time, and B, I had the chance to buy a large amount of inventory. I'm talking 500 to 1500, or I think I was $1,500. Like a very large amount of inventory at a very good price. So you can get some really good deals. The other little like sneaky tip for you is that a lot of auction houses, even if they're live, will allow you to put in absentee bids. So there's one, I've done this before with one in town. He has photos that come up every week. I go through them. There's like 1,000 photos every time. Go through, email him, and they, you know, hey, can you bid up to this much on live auctions and on the item? And then he bids up, and there's like a 5% absentee bid. I mean, that's like nothing. And then I just go and pick it up and, you know, paying cash. So live auctions, I mean, I would just search your province or your area for auction houses. You look on Facebook, because a lot of them are on Facebook, and your local auction house. That's for, I have seen the buyer's premium 23 to 27% can be, I see that more often with the online auctions. The live auctions, I think, are only 5 to 10% in our area, but it does depend. And yes, liveauctioneers.com, that's a great, just in case someone, I guess, is watching the replay, liveauctioneers.com is a great website to find the live auctions in your area. And then, Nicole, have you done online auctions that are only local, or have you done where they've shipped them also?
I haven't had any that ship. I was on, so ProxiBid is a good website that you could search for auctions in your area too. So the one that I found on there is actually an auction house. So but they use ProxiBid as their server for listing their items and like, I guess conducting their auction. But like I would go to the auction house to pick up the items. So like you have to see, if you do find an area or like a house, you have to just double check to see if they do ship. Some might charge like a flat rate for shipping, and some might just be pickup only. I've done pickup only. I've also done, there's a website called MaxSold, like MAX sold. I'm not sure if it's nationwide, but you can put in your zip code, and you can put in like a mile like radius of how far you would like to travel to. And this company goes to the house, almost like an estate sale, but the items are auctioned off, and then you go pick up your items at that specific house. So that's another source to find online auctions. Everything's online. They give you like pickup windows, so there's like A, B, and C, depending on what item it is, to make it run smoother when you go to pick it up. But I've made out really well on that website. I haven't done any recently, but that's how I first started out. Is even if like you can get something, the minimum bid is $1, I think. So you could win a whole lot of things, like a lot, not like many, you know what I mean? Like a lot of items for $1 plus tax. It's crazy. Like it's worth like even like the 1 or 2 items that you want, and then you could always donate the rest, or like, I don't know, do whatever you want with the rest of it. But they're really good source.
And estatesales.net lists auctions also. So like in my area in Kansas City, if you go on estatesales.net, it'll show all the, like the companies have to go on there and list their auction, but their auction might be on the platform of HiBid is another one. And guys, we'll try to make show notes. All the show notes well, I should be able to put them on YouTube and the reel. Like we'll try to type up these links and stuff for you in case you're not getting it, but it might be at HiBid or EquipBid or whatever, but the companies go ahead and list those on estatesale.net, so you can go through and see where the auctions are in your area, the online auctions and the live auctions also. Estatesales.net is kind of my go-to, where check it every day. Yes, constantly on there. The other thing is I have done a lot of online auctions with shipping. So I have bid in auctions that are all over the country. Estatesale.net, thank you. I bid on auctions all over the country, and you have to be very careful because the buyer premium, especially on places like HiBid, is very high. It's very high. It's like 20%. It might be 18, 20%. Then you have to do shipping. So the shipping, what I have done a lot, and I haven't done this so much with, I did this as a way to source a lot of quilts, and I just kind of, it's very energy intensive, and I'd rather just source locally. But I would contact the company, be like, hey, how do you ship? Oh, we use this UPS. So they drop it off at UPS. And then I call UPS and I ask them, hey, if I send you, I buy the UPS label via pirate ship, and then I email it to the shipping company that the auction house uses or to the auction company itself, because they're going to charge you an arm and a leg for shipping. I mean, it might be like the quotes I've gotten have been ridiculously high, especially because quilts can be quite heavy. That's the only thing that I have bought through online auctions because I don't want to ship fragile stuff. But and most of the time they allow it. Sometimes they don't. And if they don't, you just have to be willing to pay. Like they might charge you $40 to ship one quilt across 2 states. Like it's really high. So you have to factor all of that into your margin. But I do try to do that. Be like, can I please, all I need is the box dimensions and the weight. And then you can make the return label. You can actually make it your address. Anyway, so that's one way that I've done and I've done that a lot, even on Facebook Marketplace. If I buy something from someone and they're shipping it to me, and they're not savvy and they're not using pirate ship, yeah, then I will send them a label and just save money that way, because they go to the post office and it's just like, geez Louise, guys. How far do you drive to source goods? Well,
good question.
I
think it depends on what it is. Like if it's one item and I'll make like $20 off of it, but I have to drive like 40 minutes round trip, it's not worth it to me. If it's multiple items, or if it's like for a barn pick or like, like a flea market, then I would take that gamble, I guess, just to like see what they have. Also, we mentioned it in the first episode, but make sure you're keeping track of your miles, because you can deduct those on your taxes when you file. So that's something we can think about. But I personally don't want to drive more than like an hour and a half for like a big market or like a big type of sale type thing. But if it's like a Facebook Marketplace pickup for like a couple items, that's not like, unless it's like $1 or free, I'm not doing it.
No, you're losing money. And this is where the Google Map though comes in handy, because anytime, like I'm going to get my hair cut tomorrow and it's on the other side of town, and you better believe I'm going to be pulling up estatesales.net or, looking at my Google Map to see what antique stores are closed or thrift stores, because then I drive there, but then, stop, and then I can deduct all my mileage back home,
Right.
and then it's like maximizing wherever I might be. So it just, the longer I drive, the more money I need to be making on whatever item I'm selling.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay, estate sales. So do you want to hear my estate sales story from this morning?
Oh, I saw some of it on your story.
So I was like, this is so ironic. This is happening today. The Lord has a funny sense of humor. So I yesterday found an estate sale with a quilt that just like was exceptional on a lot of different levels. And I'm like, okay, this is 30 minutes away. I have to take my toddler with me. And if I'm going to be there, I need to actually like be there at least minimum 2 hours before it opens, because Kansas City is pretty competitive and the ladies here are very competitive. And also in my head, I'm like, I could go through all this effort and not get it. Like I knew going into it that you have to have that mindset of like, be prepared for disappointment. So I got there and there was one person ahead of me in line. And so my toddler and I played on the sidewalk. We walked back and forth. She threw toys down the storm sewer. We had snacks. I mean, it was a long time. And everyone, most, and we eventually got in line, and the lady in front of us, I've seen her around, and everyone was so kind. And they open the doors, the baby, I put my toddler in the baby carrier, and she's like pretty chill. She's been going to estate sales since she was 4 weeks old. So this is like normal for her. So we walked, and I followed the lady back, and she was in front of me, and the lady walked straight to the 2 quilts and picked them up. And I told her, I was like, listen, you got them, girl. Can I just look at them? Because I just want to see them in person. And so I did, and we looked at them and admired them, and we opened them up, whatever. And so then I was able to go into the other room and get a quilt top that I had seen in the photos, which one of my rules now, I don't think this is necessarily like every single time, but one of my rules is that if I'm going to a lot of effort to go somewhere like this estate sale, I am not going to leave empty-handed. Because if I were to get mad, if I were to be like, I'm so mad and frustrated I didn't get the quilts I wanted and walk off in a huff, I've just literally wasted 3 hours of my life for nothing. I have no money in it. So I was like, okay, you got to get at least one thing that I can make a profit. Numbers the night before. Okay, we'll talk about line etiquette because there's a lot of geographical differences. So with that, it's like, okay, I'm disappointed, but I'm not discouraged because I'm proud of myself. I showed up, and actually I saw that lady loading the quilt into her car, and I was like, hey, like, I'm not pushy, but I promise I'm not trying to be pushy, but are you a collector? Are you going to sell it? And because we had chatted and we had like a good rapport, and she's like, I'm not sure yet. And I was like, hey, here's my business card, because she's like, I sell some on eBay, but I have over 300 quilts. And, it's just a lot. And I was like, hey, if you ever decide that you want to just offload some, here's my number. I'd be happy to make it worth your time. Like, hey, this is a connection. So I think you can, when you go into source inventory, it's like, don't get too discouraged. Like, think about how can I turn this into a business opportunity in a nice way and like connect with someone else. So estate sales, I mean, we could do a whole thing on estate sale etiquette, but first off, in Kansas City, we have line markers, okay? And it's this unspoken rule. I don't know who started it. It's been around ever since we started, but you can put down anything as a line marker. Like I put down my toddler's shoe on the sidewalk as my line marker. And then as long as and don't drive away. I can't drive away. I have to physically be in the area. That is my place in line. I can get back in my car. I can walk around the block. I can take a snooze. I can walk to McDonald's to pee, because why is it that I drink a gallon of tea before I go to stand in line at an estate sale knowing that there's no toilet? So that's like the first thing you need. If you show up at a house and some people, there's stuff on the sidewalk, those are people's line markers. So how do they do it? How do they do it in your area?
There are so many different ways. Honestly, I'm that person that goes on the last day to get everything half off. I'm not going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive to stand in line for a couple hours. Like, I'm sorry. If that's what you want to do, that's great.
Don't be sorry.
It's not worth it to me. Honestly, unless this house is packed full of stuff and it's priced well, which most places don't give you any pricing ahead of time. Yeah. But like depending on what the company is, and if you go on estatesales.net, it's a great resource to find these, and it'll tell you there's descriptions of the sales. So some places, if you text a number the day before, they'll give a phone number. They'll give you a number, like your order entry number. So I was 68 once, and I literally texted it 10 minutes after they posted. So that it gets kind of crazy. Or you could wake up and you literally have to stand in line, and you can't leave that line. You have to be there. They have some companies run it there's a list. Someone makes a list the day before and leaves it at the house, and you write your name down with your phone number, and that's the order of entry the next day. So they all depend, but usually it's an unspoken rule that usually the last day of a sale, it's 50% off of everything. So that's when I like to go and kind of grab what's left over, because it's still it's a lot more inexpensive, and there usually are some good stuff left behind. Mm-hmm. Yes, we will talk about inventory management and how we keep the items listed. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what else there.
an
Estate sales
hour.
are also different. Like you should get to know the companies that run them. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain company I will refuse to go to their estate sales because they charge antique store prices. And I mean antique store like bougie, like really upscale antique store at someone's
Mm-hmm.
house.
But
And then there's
then,
some that like don't know like the value of things. So like I used to get, not anymore, but like before flower frogs were crazy, like hot, I guess, I used to get them for like $1 each because nobody like really understood the value of them. So like you have to kind of just get familiar with the companies that run these estate sales.
mm-hmm. And that's even helpful for like, there's one company that's definitely high end. And I went on a first day and all of the ironstone was under $10 because there was so much of it.
Oh
But the
wow.
stuff, but it was like stained and crazed. So in their heads, thinking high end antique, they
Oh,
don't,
it's
that's damaged.
dirty. Yeah.
And so, and the thing is, I had to take my toddler to that sale. I have really high customer service. So I'm like, okay, I might pay a little bit more for all this stuff, but I had two guys carrying 10 bags of stuff out to my car for me. Whereas other sales, they might have two people working the entire sale and you're on your own. So it does help to kind of, like knowing your companies really, really, really helps. Yes, and the
Yeah, thank
photos
you,
help. Even
Alicia. So
being able
there
to
are photos. You
look
can
for
heart them.
clues as to which room the things are in. Like this morning, I was looking at the house. I'm like, okay, that weird glass thing, like that's the bathroom window. So that means the bedroom is going to be attached to it. So when I go in, I go this way. So we're like giving you all the secrets here, guys. The other thing on estatesale.net is that you can actually put search terms. You can search, type in quilts into search terms because sometimes there will not be photos of the items you're looking for, but they'll be listed in the description. So that can be an easy way.
Right.
And then once you're in, I always take a bag to carry stuff in. There's usually hold tables. Yes, if there's real estate, there's not always real estate
Oh,
listings, but those also helped. I've done that before too. Or Zillow, if it's been sold recently in the past, you can look up Zillow listings and see where the rooms are located. Take a bag, use the hold table. If it's a high value, I've never had people, they do sometimes move things. So yes, you just have to like know that it might be here and it might not. Use the hold table, and then occasionally there's a couple companies in here in KC that they only do cash or check. So just be aware of that before, look at the
most
terms and make
places do
sure.
cash.
Shop the hold tables. Yeah, if I have really valuable things, then I don't put it on the hold table. I hang on. I even check out and take it to my car and then come back. So, all
And I
right.
guess before I move on, because we have other things to talk about, but like usually it's better to make a pile and get a bundle deal than to be like, oh, I like this picture. How much is this? And then you come back, oh, I like this. How much is this? And you're like, well, $40 and $20. I don't really want to spend that much. But if you gather a few items together, they're more willing to give you a deal than if you're only buying like a couple items or one item.
Are they not
So
priced? Are they not
sometimes they're
priced?
not. Sometimes they're not.
That's called pick. We have those in KC, but they're called picker sales. So they're only list like it'll very explicitly call them picker sales, and that's where nothing is staged or priced. And so yeah.
Oh, okay. No, it's like when there's just so much. I'm not saying like a hoarder house, but like there's just so much in the house that they need to like sell. I guess the people just don't mark every individual item, but
Yeah, yes, we just the Blue Stem is a company here that does those, and they just call them picker sales. So yeah, you just have to kind of know, I guess, what the terms mean. I know I really want to get to inventory management, so we might have to fly through because I know a lot of people are asking. I
we can
again finding stuff
touch
sometimes.
upon the other sources and then
Yeah, we can touch. Garage sales are very hit or miss unless it's an antique dealer garage sale. Love those. So, and then Facebook Marketplace, I do use them, for stuff. And then if they have stuff I like, I'm like, show me what else you got that's not listed on Facebook Marketplace. Because a lot of times if people are listing on there, they might have more. And I've made some really good connections, like good sources too, like really good. Okay, private picks. Now, this is one that I think that you said you haven't done before. So a private pick is where, let's say your neighbor calls and says, hey, my Aunt Susie is moving out of her house and she has a bunch of stuff she wants to sell. Can you come over and buy it? I've done several of these, and sometimes you don't know what you're getting into. If I have to drive a long way, sometimes I ask for pictures of kind of what they have, and just to give me an idea of what they have, and then go over and look through everything that they have. And I always ask them, like, do you have an idea of what price you want for all this stuff first? Because they may be way high, they may be way low. You just sometimes don't know what people are valuing things at. And again, bundling, like trying to put everything together that I want and then bundling the deal. I've been in some kind of rough situations with picker houses, so you kind of have to bring a flashlight and be prepared to dig. You might want to bring gloves and even look outside the house, because sometimes the inside's a mess and then the outside they'll have like concrete statuary or crocks or different things too. And then I do think it's best to try to very nicely close the deal before you leave, because I've had opportunities where I didn't want to be too pushy and then I left and they never called me back or they never responded to my calls or anything, and maybe they found someone else to offer them more money. I don't know what happened, but it's like a missed opportunity for me because I was there with cash ready to buy, and then they were just like, I don't know, and then it just didn't happen. So but that can be the more you get into the antique business, people will start to contact you to want to sell stuff. And it's just hard when it's like, sometimes they want you, they look on Etsy and they expect you to pay that. And so it takes a little bit of education and being like, okay, I have to have some profit left in it. Like for me, I'm selling, so this is what my margins are. And then yes, outdoor flea markets, shows. I mean, you've done a lot of the big markets too, like Brimfield and Springfield.
There's a lot of walking involved. I would recommend like preparing yourself for just like it's overwhelming. I mean, I think I can go into this like in the notes maybe a little bit, but Brimfield, if you're on the East Coast, it's right over the Massachusetts border, like from Connecticut. It's really not that far up, like into the state. Definitely worth it. They host the shows 3 times a year in May, July, and September, and it's from Tuesday to Saturday, 3 times a year. You can go for as many days as you want. You can go for a day. Like for me, it's only 3.5 hours away, so I want to just go up in like a day, do a day trip, because I think it's like you can just run it. Like I know I've only been twice, so I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I more or less know what fields I like and like what vendors I want to shop at, type of a thing. But like other flea markets, there's smaller flea markets. There are sometimes like my one antique store I like to go to, they host a flea market once a month outside. So it's like the last Sunday of every month, or like another one is the first Sunday of every month, and that might not be public knowledge. So they might have it like hidden in like their website or on their like Facebook page or something like that. So if you're in a store, just like ask them, hey, do you happen to have like an outdoor? Some of them do them seasonally, so that's a really great option too. But yeah, flea markets are great because you never know what you're gonna find. I highly
And
recommend
it's the
them.
volume. It's just being able to go and look through a huge volume of stuff. You're really maximizing your time and your money too. Yeah. In the Midwest, yeah, we have Springfield, Ohio, and then Sentimental Journeys, the antique store. There's a lot of antique stores that do the parking lot sales like that. And then there's Sparks is probably the closest thing. It's been going on, now I don't remember, was it 25 or 45 years? Like it's about an hour and a half for me, and I just have been the one time, but I will definitely be back because again, it's just being able to go and invest in a large amount of stock for your shop, and then being able to come back and work through that, because I know some people that they're at estate sales like 3 or 4 times a week. They're constantly sourcing like small amounts, and I which is there's nothing like wrong with that, but I don't have the time or energy to do that a whole bunch all the time. And I end up spending way too
Yeah.
much on inventory. So it's much better for me to get a big stock in and then just to
That's
work through
good
that.
too for the question that was asked before of like how far is too far to shop kind of a thing, like to travel to something. So like if you're going to a flea market, like I just said 3.5 hours to Brimfield. So 7 hours round trip. That's I don't know how many miles it is, but like that's worth it to me because especially now, like if I did the fall one, when it gets cold, it's cold in New Jersey and it's cold on the East Coast and the North. So like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, November, December, January, I'm kind of like a hermit. I don't really want to go out and source. So it's great for me to almost like, like stockpile all my like little
Yes.
acorns for the winter
Yes.
so that I'm able to like last for a couple months too. So like my budget was a lot higher for Brimfield than it would be if I just did like a antique trip like
Absolutely.
to a store.
Yeah. And I do a similar trip. Like there's an antique store. So my family lives 2 hours south, and then 30 minutes further south is another really good antique store that does an outdoor flea market. So I routinely, when I go down to my parents, I stop at all the antique stores on the way, go to the antique stores in my hometown, drive there and go to the antique store. So it's like, since I'm going down there anyways, guess what? I get to deduct my mileage, which means basically free, and I get to hit up all that. And someone asked a large amount of items. I mean, like my van will be full and I'll spend maybe $500 to $800 on inventory, which if you have profit margins of 3 to 5 times is like a really decent decent amount. Which leads us to profit margins or buying, because someone asked, how in the world do you know what to buy at what price? One of
Right.
my this is not just Drew Pritchard, this is like an old school dealer. Someone else just quoted this to me, but you make your money in the buy. You make your money when you buy your item, because it doesn't matter what else you do in your business. If you pay too much for an item, you can't make that up, because the market value is the market value. Because I have even had friends say like, I only paid $5 for this. How can I charge more than 30? I'm like, it really doesn't matter what you paid for it. If the market value for that item is $200, it's $200. Like, you don't get to guilt
Mhm.
trip yourself into into like, you know, charging less for it. That's what the market value is. So, and someone also asked about like the personal formula about figuring out what to buy. And we talked about this a lot. I mean, part of that depends on, have I sold this item before? How long did it sit in my shop? How much did it sell for? How much did it cost me to ship? How much marketing did it take? So this is one of those, it's kind of hard to answer. For me, for small items, I like to have a profit margin between 3 to 5 times. The more that item increases in value, the lower that ratio goes. So for example, it's pretty easy to buy a $5 item that sells for 25. And yes, guys, the video will be on our Instagram and it'll also be on YouTube. So, and make sure you're following both of us. I didn't mention that at the beginning. If you could just tap here and make sure you're following both of us, so that you can just kind of make sure you see all the updates as well. So as that goes up, for example, if I'm buying $100 quilt and I sell it for 300, like that's a really good margin. But quilts take longer to sell. It's a larger amount of capital invested in one item, and there's a little bit more time intensive because I have to wash them, prep them, photographing them, studying them is super intense because of just the nature of the item. So that is kind of, what all of these, it's like a whole decision tree that you slowly,
Mhm.
that's not something that you just have right when you start. You almost have to like grow it like a tree in your brain, to kind of have all of these decision things going on. So how do you figure out like when you're buying, what does your brain look like?
Frazzled. Like, all right. So I would say your bare minimum, you want to at least double what you have into the item. So like it's harder for like the more sought after pieces. Like, and I'll give an example. So like if I found like an ironstone sugar bowl with the lid, right? And those are they're usually around $50 to $70 when you buy them like retail. I'm not going to buy one for more than $25.
Mm-hmm.
They're fragile, so it's harder to ship.
Mm-hmm.
Not harder, but like more time goes into packing the item, more material goes into packing the item. I most likely have to like scrub it. They're not always pristine. I have to make sure, like, when I write this, I like to study and research the stamps and like a little bit of just a little bit of history. I'm not telling you to give it like its whole like biography, but like that takes time. And so if I'm putting 25 into an item and I'm only selling it for 50, it's for me it's not worth it because I'm like I said, I'm using more materials to pack it. The peanuts, the packing peanuts I like to use, and the ones that are like eco-friendly, of course. But like that's an item I want a higher margin, profit margin. Now, when it comes to doing like a butter paddle, it's wood. It's not gonna like it's resilient pretty much, or a masher. So like I just have to add that to a box. I most likely don't have to like scrub it. I don't really have to research it because I know what it is already, and it just throws right in there. So like that, I'm okay with just doubling. But like whereas like I said, like the more fragile, intricate pieces, I want a little bit better profit margin on those.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Whitney said, if you've sold it before, it's like way easier. So it's like, okay, well I a pin flower frog, I don't want to spend more than, I don't know, $8 on because it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Like like you'll know your price, you'll know what people want to pay for your price.
Mm-hmm.
What they pay for mine and what they pay for like someone else's could be completely different. So like just be comfortable and like kind of understand what your customer base will pay for a certain item.
Yes. Yes. And the more you specialize and niche down, the more of an expert you become in your area and the more that you can charge for that knowledge and expertise. So, and that's just something that takes, I mean, we're still babies in this antique business, so we're not anywhere near being experts in anything. So, I also look at, so someone asked about sources to look at price comps. So, so other small shops. So first off, look at yourself, look at your own sold comps. Have I sold this before? And then what does it sell for? And then you can look at eBay sold listings. Those now, if you just use eBay, the website, I think they only go back like 3 months or 6 months. But I share a subscription for WorthPoint with some other sellers. And so they pull eBay sold data from like 10 years ago. So it's actually really helpful because one time I had this Western stoneware colonial pattern butter crock or salt crock. It had like it has the panel at the back that you screw into the wall. Only 1 or 2 have been sold in the past 10 years. And so I'm like, well, so I set my price at what the last sold was, and it sold. It took a couple months, but that's what it sold at. So when you're determining market value, it can be helpful to have some historical data. And other small shops, if you do have competitors in a nice way, but just simply other small shops that are kind of at the same level of you with the same customer base, then that can be helpful as well. Just to see kind of what the going rate is for like Instagram lives. So Nicole is like an expert in that, in keeping all that. WorthPoint subscription, I pay $40 for the year, and I think there's 4 or 5 of us. It's pretty expensive, so if you can share it, I don't know if that's kosher or not. I don't know. I just send my money in and I have the password, and I figure, the 4 of us, we get our money's worth. I'm not using it I don't use it for kind of the bread and butter stuff, but I use it for the more rare pieces that I don't come across very often, or collector's items can be really helpful. So, and the other thing to think about is how long will an item take to sell and how much capital, like an item might be worth $500 and I maybe can buy it for $100. That's my 5 times. That's a $400 profit, but it might take 6 months to sell. Do I really want $100 tied up in one thing? Like, no, not really. I have a quilt sitting in my basement that I've had for like a year and a half that I've had over $100 tied up, and I just want it to go away. If you want it, send me an offer in. Like, it's just thinking that's just money sitting there that kind of like you need. The key to like financial success in the business is being able to keep turning over your stock and keeping in a fresh cash flow as quickly as possible. So
especially if your space is limited. So like
yes.
if you have one bookcase that you can fit all your inventory on and you have like a piece that's taking up this much space, you could have replaced that piece like 6 or 7 times in the time that you're trying to make an extra $10 off of on something. So you have to think about like how quickly you want to turn something around. That would also go into like your listing price, which also affects your buying price.
Yes. And
always
that also
to buy as long as possible.
condition can also play a role in that. Is it something that you have to repair and refinish? I finally embraced I am not a furniture fixer. If it needs anything done to it, I'm not going to touch it, because I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to fix it, even if it's something small. I should have grabbed, there's this amazing book I've been reading, and it's by, okay, you guys need to watch Salvage Hunters. It's free on YouTube. Drew Pritchard, been dealing antiques for decades in the UK. I have learned so much from that. But he's like, if there's a question that needs answering, answer it before your customer sees the item. Meaning, oh, does something need repaired? Do you know the history of the item? What needs done to it? Is this actually a problem? Like, oh, that's just a small flaw, I can overlook it. Some flaws can be overlooked, but is there a big crack in that, and that's unstable in that ironstone bowl? Well, that might, your customer's not going to want to buy that no matter how stained and crazed it is, because they're afraid it's going to crack during shipping. You know, you have to think about condition, because I've turned down things that are fabulous, but I'm like, the condition, you can't get around that issue. So that's another thing to really think about when you're buying. Okay, inventory management. This is the not so fun part.
It's a little overwhelming.
I know. Okay.
So,
yeah, tell us how you track your stuff.
So I probably have the unpopular way of tracking my items because I'm very visual. So I need to see something to like remember it. And I do like, so when I come home from, if I go to like 5 different antique stores in one trip and I buy different items for each antique store, I'll just do like really quick, it doesn't have to be perfect, just like a loot shoot photo. I have the picture of everything that I bought from that store in the picture. When I upload that to my computer, I change the name of the photo. I do the date, where I bought it from. Then I have a notebook. I know, a notebook. It's crazy. I like to handwrite everything down. For tracking inventory, I don't use the computer. For tracking sales, definitely recommend using like a spreadsheet or software for that. But I'll write like Morris Habitat Restore, 9/13/23, total $24.14, and then I'll list the items. I personally will write each item. I know I have a receipt. I understand that. But like for me, I'm a little, meticulous about certain things. I need everything written down. I do keep the receipt in a separate spot. I keep all my receipts. But this is more just so I can keep track of how much I paid for each item, which also helps me determine how much I'm going to sell it for. So like if I buy something that I don't usually buy and I'm like, oh, how much was that? It was $14 and they really only go for like 30. Oh, well, but like at least I can refer back to this is how much I paid for it. So that's how I like doing it. And to take it a step further, because I'm crazy, I also highlight the items as they sell so that when I'm referring back to look for an item, I know I don't have to look at that line item anymore. If you use like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, you could probably gray it out, or like you could check mark it and it disappears. That's just how I...
Or color code it. That's what I used to do on mine, was color code the lines depending on their status. So
okay. But yeah,
I think see, the thing though that's key here is the best system is the one that you can maintain. That's really the key here. It's like you can maintain that system and it works for your brain. It fits into your brain and it works for you. So I think that's also kind of hard if you're just starting out, is figuring out what system is the best, and it can take some trial and error. So I started out with a Google spreadsheet, and which was great because I could look at it on the go on my phone. And so I combined my inventory and sales into one spreadsheet. So one line was one item, and every item got a SKU, which is like an ID number for that specific item. Because I have so many very similar items. One time I got like 9 of the stoneware ginger beer bottles, and they're all very similar. So I had to write the SKU on a piece of masking tape and then put it on the item, so that if I pull an item, if it sells off Etsy or whatever, then I can make sure I have the correct one. And then track all the same information as you. And then I used to track like date listed, date sold, amount sold for, what platform it sold on, how much shipping was, how much the fees were, and what my net profit was for each item. I think that when you're first starting out, that is a really good way to understand your numbers and to like own your business. I don't do that anymore.
In the beginning too. And then the volume just got bigger, and I was like, I don't have enough time. I need an assistant to do that, and then it wasn't worth the money for me to have someone else do it, so I needed to simplify it.
Yeah. No. So now my inventory, when I do put it in, actually put it in there. For the rewind, like, your accountant really only needs to know how much inventory you have at the beginning of the year and how much inventory, the value of it at the beginning of the year and end of the year. So, but there's a lot of like gray area as to like how much information that someone wants to know, and how do you even know what inventory you have. So my website is on Shopify, and so I can actually put things into my Shopify inventory that are not on my website. And I can just have the cost of goods on there. The cost of goods, that just means how much you spent on that item. I can enter that COGS. I can enter that in. I can put the item in. I can even store dimensions or little notes in the description if I'm not ready to list it. And then it just sits there. And Shopify can run a report for me on all my existing inventory that I have, which is great because that's exactly what my accountant needs. Well, my accountant, meaning my husband. At the end of the year of how much. But I'll be honest, a lot of my inventory is, well, I should rewind because of my show last weekend. A lot of it got put in. And also I paid my sister as a virtual assistant to move stuff from my spreadsheet into Shopify, which was like the best money ever spent. Because I'm like, this needs to be done. I don't have time to do it. So pay someone else to do it. So that, and again, the SKU is very important for me because of how my business is structured, because I list things on my website and I cross list them to eBay and Etsy. And so I use and this is like going to be a whole different episode because this is a whole different thing, but I use a program called Sellbrite that Etsy and Shopify don't talk to each other. So they're like the middleman. So the SKU number is how Etsy and Shopify communicate via Sellbrite. I have to have that number or else they don't talk. So, okay. But then how about, the other thing I would say, you're writing down, I do a lot of averaging out of purchase prices if I buy a big auction lot, or sometimes if I go to the thrift store and everything's roughly around the same price and I'm too lazy. And especially if there's tax, like a lot of thrift stores, you can't use your retail sales tax number. So you have to pay tax on it. And then I'm like, well, how much did the tax, I have to there's too much math involved. So I just like take the total, divide it by the number of items that I bought and put it in there. And you know what, guys, that is fine, because that if your brain is okay with that, then that's all that the tax man needs. If your brain's not okay with it, then you can do all the math.
See, I'm the one that's like 199 times 1.06625
No.
to figure out how much it is after tax.
That's great.
But
good
I don't know.
For you. Good for you.
Around items.
Yes. Good for you.
Well,
not for me.
Because I track, I track my sales and I put the purchase price in, the sale price in, so that I can track per month what my profit is. But that's me. That's not what the accountant needs. That's not what most people even care about. But I like to know.
Sorry. That's why you need wave
I
apps.
know,
Sorry,
but I'm
I'm the
like
biggest.
really, I don't know, I'm like really anal. I feel like I have to like do it all
It
myself.
feels so good to let all that go. But if you have time and energy and that brings you joy, then run with it.
So I don't have time or energy. I don't sleep.
Yeah. I just put everything, wave apps, we talked about this last time. Wave apps, money in, money out. That's literally, it generates an entire report for me, even, and it does break it down to like shipping supplies, software costs, etc. And then I can just look at my profit, pay myself, set some aside, move on with my life. So anyway, but so moving on. The physical management of inventory.
Okay.
I'm laughing because
It's crazy. All right. If just
you can
throwing it
see
out
my
there, because I'm pretty
garage.
sure anybody who has a shop or who has a booth or who like it's scary. Like you'll have like the, oh, this is so pretty, her room looks so nice, how it's staged. Oh, look, that looks so nice. Yeah, this is the only part that looks nice. There is inventory that has been vomited all over my
Oh my
house.
gosh.
Seriously. You
I
can ask
know.
my husband. He will be completely transparent about it. So don't think that we're just like, oh yeah, we have all of our like stuff together all the time because I don't. I
Guys,
know I don't.
this is
So
more of a version
personally
of
for me,
Antiquers Anonymous.
so I'm located in a spare bedroom. So that's the shop room and whatever can fit, well, I just said it doesn't. But like ideally whatever can fit in here is what I am able to have. So when I bring a haul home, I like to wash everything first, get whatever fixed, or it goes into a pile or a box, and like this stuff needs to have some attention given to it, and then it comes upstairs. I'm not gonna lug things up and down to wash them. So like washing is a big thing. Like I'll take my loot chute photo and whatever needs to be washed goes right by the laundry sink and I wash it. I don't wash it right away, but at least it's like, this is stage 2. You need to have a bath. And then like once it's washed and dried, it comes upstairs. And that just like helps me out. Um, I have like bookshelves with not like very many. You can buy like those wire racks at like Home Depot or Walmart or like get like a cheap bookcase of like IKEA or like Facebook Marketplace or something. Doesn't have to be crazy or fancy. But I organize like items together on a shelf. So like right now I'm looking over there because my stuff is over there. So I have like a shelf just with ironstone. I have bins. I don't have any here, but like just those like clear plastic bins. I put my silver plate in there. I have inkwells in there, little things. Because then you could stack them on top of each other, and it like it helps with the visual like clutter, and it also helps with like shelf clutter, like not visual, like mental. I think like I feel like I get all like when there's too much stuff around, I get too anxious
Yeah.
and it's overwhelming. So like I feel like you kind of need to sort things out a little bit, or at least I have to. So that's how I like to store my inventory. Like and then like seasonal items or like say holiday items that all right, now I guess I could start opening them up, but like if I find something that's great for the spring, I'm not going to let it clutter my shelf. I'll put spring items in a box and I'll label spring.
Mm-hmm.
So like that helps with like the visual clutter too.
Mm-hmm. Show us it. My camera is not facing my inventory, but I can always take pictures later and we
It's
can,
not
I mean,
really.
I'm happy to do some show and tell. I also just saw that there's like a question. Did you see the question bubble that's at the bottom? People can ask questions. Okay, Ventissima Decor. Okay, at the very, maybe it's just on mine because I'm the host. There's like a little question bubble and someone tap a question to answer. Okay, let's see if you see this. Do you see this question pop up?
No.
Oh, okay. It said everyone will see the question. Someone asked, should prices differ if you sell in brick and mortar and not online? Oh, they see it. Weird.
100%.
I think it's hype. You have to base your price on your geographic location because, yes, that'll differ. And it may be higher, it may be lower. I hear that quilts are really expensive in California. And here in Kansas, we sneeze quilts. So it's like you're just okay, good people can see it. That's super cool.
I
If you
think
guys
people are more willing to spend money online than in person, especially a
well
little bit
you're
extra money.
you're reaching a right your customer base is simply larger, so you're more likely to find someone who can spend more. So can I
That
hire you all to
and
come out and
somebody who
organize?
like works. So like I've had a couple customers tell me that, you know what, I am a nurse or I don't know, I have other responsibilities. I have to take care of like a parent who's sick type of a thing. So they don't actually have the time to go out to source the items by
Mhm.
themselves, like on their own. So they don't mind paying a little bit more if they can do it on at night, or like on their phone when they're already tied up doing other things, or like on eBay or Etsy. Like
Mhm.
so I think online definitely you do reach a different audience, but you're allowing these people, like us included, because I shop online too, but you
Mhm.
allow these people to actually find the item that they've been looking for, but don't necessarily have the time to invest in searching for themselves. So like they're more willing to give you the money if it can just come to their door. Like who doesn't love deliveries? I
Yep.
do.
That
Very
keeps it
convenient.
so yeah. So I store, so circling back to inventory management. So my husband refinished this attic space for our office, and I don't think I could be running my business if he hadn't done that because it's amazing. So okay, let's see if you guys can kind of see on this side. So these are doors and they open up, and this is all space back here. So I can store tubs, packing supplies. Well, that's in my basement now. And then on the other side, there's actually shelves built in. So this is like my active selling area where inventory that's not on my website is up here. And then this is also where I do my photography. I have a table set up. All my photography is done in the same place, time, lighting, conditions, etc. Then once items have been listed on my website, they go down to the basement. And in the basement, I have this area that is my shipping station. And this was a huge win for me because I just didn't have room for shipping up here. It takes up too much. I have so much stuff. So down in the shipping area, and when we do our shipping video, you'll get to see that whole setup. But I have one
Mhm.
wall. One wall is these really heavy duty metal shelves, wire shelves that came from Amazon, and they're pretty tall. And I put stuff on there. Like I try to keep like stuff together. Those shallow boxes from Costco that they always have, like the berries and stuff come in, are perfect for sitting on shelves to provide a solid surface to kind of separate things. And then the other wall is my shipping table. It's a workbench I got off Facebook Marketplace. I have a roll of paper bolted to the wall up above. My bubble wrap is below. Boxes are all on a wire shelf organized by size. And then I have a wire rack of items that are ready to ship that have been purchased and paid for. And then, so after an Instagram live, stuff once it's paid, it goes from my attic down to my basement onto those shelves. So I think just having a system where you're not
Mhm.
constantly having to move things over, and I get it, some people are shipping off their dining room table. It is hard. But if you can get a tote or a closet or something to just really make things systematic for you in storing your inventory, you're going to save so much time and energy.
Mhm.
So,
And I think it is important, like Whitney touched upon, that she separates the items that have been listed already from the items that have not, because you don't want to like list. If you have a lot, I mean, there are people that have like 300, 700 items in their Etsy shop. I don't know if you necessarily remember every single little item that you list. So you don't want to like take that item and like relist it maybe as a group with other things, and then somebody buys that single item and now it's tied up into the group. So like, and it also helps you look. Like I have a little bookcase that I have everything. Like I have a Vintage Keepers shop page, which is similar to Etsy, but it's a different website. So I have all of my items in that bookcase that are listed on there. So I know that I don't want to cross post. That's too much for me. So like I know that those are designated for
mhm.
Vintage Keepers and they have already been listed. Then I have a different shelf for items that I'm looking to list. So like then that helps me. Okay, like these next 5 items need to be photographed, need to be measured, that kind of a thing. So like I think it's helpful to do in phases, but
Mhm.
whatever works for you and like helps you stay organized with your inventory is what you need to find out.
Yeah. Someone asked, let's see, I'm going to pop this up. How do you organize in bins? I don't know what FIFO means. And I'm also seeing a question about Instagram feed posts, which I think, okay, sorry. Okay, we're going to take these two questions, and then I think it's about time for us to wrap up because I actually have to go pick up my kids. So the first question, how do you organize in bins? Oh, first in, first out, or seasonally. I put like, I don't keep closed, well, I do have some closed bins. They're like items, because if I'm like, oh gosh, where did that ironstone platter go? It's easier for me to look for the whole stack of ironstone platters that are all together and then find that item. And then seasonal, yes, like spring stuff, Christmas stuff, having Christmas sells all year long, so I will list a lot of Christmas stuff on Etsy like in January because people still buy it. But if I am saving up seasonal collections, y'all, I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow, so don't be too concerned for me, okay? I know a lot of you are worried about
I
this
think it
wavy
looks
hair.
cute.
Oh, Lord, save, okay? Anyway, so yes, having seasonal bins is really, really helpful, especially if you have a physical space like a booth where your bin is all ready to go. And then
Organizing boxes, I guess, like if you want to be crazy like me, I'll like put a list of the items that are in the box
oh,
because
that's
if it's
smart.
all packed up, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I think I have a Santa mug. I say A because they're so hard for me to find here.
Yeah.
What Christmas box is it in? So like
Yeah.
I just have like scrap paper. I write like 2 Santa mugs, picture with holly, like that kind of a thing. And then I'll just throw really casual. I'll just throw that like jotted down note in the box because I would rather protect the items from like hitting into each other. So I do wrap everything just in like paper.
Yeah.
But like clear bins are really good. So like for I don't know, creamers, butter pats, right? Like you can just stack those and put them in a clear bin, and then like what's in that bin. You don't have to like label it.
And then yes, and if you're using a SKU system, you're making me realize I need to go do this because I do have some boxes that are a bit deep and they're open at the top, but I just can't see in them. I really should go get a sticky note and just slap it on there and then write down the SKU number on that box, and then I can, if something sells, I can just cross it off.
Oh, that's helpful.
And that's one of my goals in January is to be I need to go through my inventory that's listed, weed stuff out, kind of get organized and stuff. So yeah. Okay, we could talk all day. Just a reminder, the replay will be available on Instagram in just a minute and YouTube. I'll try to get it up in the next day or two on YouTube, and I'll post the link. I have a link in my bio for YouTube channel. I think it's just at Thrifty Whitney. So you can find it there. And then what did we pick for our next topic? I don't remember.
I didn't
Hold on, guys.
write it down. It's in the drive.
I know. Hold on. I'm going to look it up. Our next date, I think, is November 1st. We do have a date set because it's a Wednesday. So it'll be November 1st at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern Time is the next one. And then our next, let me pull up our episode roadmap here. I believe that our next one is going to be on Instagram, which is like, because we've gotten a ton of questions about Instagram, and it's going to be really hard to like, it's going to be a very general episode because there's how to start an Instagram account, how to grow it, how to promote it, how to have sales, and then you have lives, you have Instagram live sales, you have feed sales, you have story sales, you have, like, there's just a lot of pieces to it, but hopefully we'll give you guys kind of a broad overview of like best practices, specifically for vintage shops on Instagram, because we know that so many of you, that is exactly what you're doing right now. And then, yeah, that's kind of all that we have. A lot of topics, and we appreciate all of your questions that have come in. That has really, really helped us to kind of like hone in on what topics we want to focus on.
Yeah, and if you do have a question or like something you would like us to cover in a future episode, send us a DM. Either one of us, both of us, however you want to do it. We share all of the questions that we receive so that we can chat about it later. But yeah, I just thought about XYZ. That's fine. Just let us know if you have any feedback on what we could maybe not like improve on, what you would like us to kind of like do a little differently. We're like very open to hearing all like feedback, any suggestions, anything like that too. We're trying to help you as best as we can.
And even if it's a topic that we don't know much about, we're planning to have some guests on starting in the new year. And so that also helps us like, wow, we're getting a lot of questions about branding and design. Well, we can ask this person and, you know, have some people on who can who can really share their expertise and knowledge. So it's not just us. We don't know everything by a very far stretch. So all right, I think that's it. Thank you, Nicole, for hanging out with me again.
Thank you. It's so much fun. And thank you to everybody for joining. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for tuning in.
All right, bye.
Bye.